The morning sun was bright, the streets were alive with people rushing toward another ordinary day, and no one expected that within a few terrifying seconds, a stranger's decision would change several lives forever. Caleb Mercer, a 38-year-old single father wearing faded blue jeans, a gray work shirt, and worn work boots, had just finished dropping his 8-year-old daughter Lily at school before heading toward another construction job that barely paid enough to keep food on the table. His life had been an endless series of sacrifices ever since his wife passed away 4 years earlier. Every dollar mattered. Every hour mattered. Every promise he made to Lily mattered. Yet on that ordinary morning, Caleb noticed something everyone else seemed determined to ignore. Across the street, a frightened young woman was desperately trying to walk away from an angry man whose body language carried a dangerous intensity. People slowed down, stared for a moment, then continued walking. Caleb could have done the same. He could have reminded himself that he couldn't afford trouble. Instead, he crossed the street without hesitation, placing himself between the terrified woman and the furious man, never imagining that this single act of courage would lead him to the one person who could save everything he had left. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Tales Journey if you believe in kindness and second chances. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories like this to people who need hope. The woman looked exhausted, her face pale from fear, while the man standing several feet away radiated anger that seemed ready to explode. Caleb kept his posture calm but firm, refusing to move aside. The man shouted accusations that echoed across the sidewalk before finally realizing that dozens of people had stopped watching. Knowing the attention was no longer in his favor, he stormed away, leaving behind a silence filled with relief. The woman struggled to steady her breathing before quietly thanking Caleb. She introduced herself as Evelyn Harper, explaining only that she had recently ended a long relationship that had become controlling and frightening. Caleb didn't ask for more details. He simply walked her to a nearby coffee shop where she could feel safe before continuing to work. They exchanged polite smiles, and Caleb believed that would be the last time their paths would ever cross. Life quickly returned to its familiar rhythm of early mornings, long hours, unpaid bills, and quiet evenings helping Lily with homework. Caleb had once dreamed of opening his own home renovation business, but medical debt from his late wife's illness had buried those dreams beneath years of financial struggle. Recently another problem had appeared. A dishonest property developer blamed Caleb for construction mistakes that he had never made. The company refused to pay months of wages and instead filed legal claims that threatened to destroy Caleb's reputation. Without expensive legal representation, he knew he could lose everything, including the small house where Lily had grown up. Every attorney he contacted asked for retainers far beyond what he could afford. Hope seemed to disappear a little more each day. Several weeks later, Caleb received a call asking him to repair damaged wooden steps outside a downtown law office. The job was simple, and he gladly accepted because every paycheck mattered. While measuring the broken staircase, he heard someone call his name. Turning around, he froze with surprise. Standing there was Evelyn Harper, dressed professionally in a navy business suit, carrying legal files with quiet confidence. She smiled warmly, immediately recognizing the man who had stepped between her and danger weeks earlier. Caleb learned that Evelyn wasn't simply an office employee. She was one of the city's most respected civil litigation attorneys. She had spent years helping ordinary people fight powerful corporations that believed money could erase justice. After thanking Caleb once again for helping her that morning, she noticed the stress written across his face. She gently asked if something was wrong. At first Caleb hesitated because pride had always kept him from sharing his struggles. But something about Evelyn's kindness encouraged honesty. He explained everything about the false accusations, unpaid wages, mounting debt, and the fear of losing his home. Evelyn listened carefully without interrupting. Years of courtroom experience had taught her how to recognize truth hidden beneath exhaustion. She asked to review Caleb's documents, employment records, emails, photographs, and contracts. The more evidence she examined, the more troubled she became. The developer's case depended on manipulated paperwork, missing inspection reports, and statements that clearly contradicted documented timelines. Someone had intentionally built a false case against Caleb because they believed he lacked the resources to defend himself. The following morning, Evelyn officially agreed to represent Caleb. She refused to charge an upfront fee, explaining that sometimes justice mattered more than immediate payment. Caleb struggled to accept such generosity, but Evelyn reminded him that courage deserved to be repaid with courage. She told him that weeks earlier, one stranger had risked his own safety without expecting anything in return. Now it was her turn to stand beside someone who needed help. Preparing for court became an emotional journey for both of them. Caleb worked during the day and gathered evidence at night. Meanwhile, Evelyn quietly continued rebuilding her own life after escaping years of emotional manipulation. Although she appeared confident inside the courtroom, the memory of fear still lingered in unexpected moments. Seeing Caleb devote himself completely to raising Lily reminded Evelyn that good people still existed in the world. His kindness had never been performative or self-serving. It came naturally because protecting others was simply part of who he was. As the trial approached, the property developer launched an aggressive campaign to pressure Caleb into accepting a settlement that required admitting fault. Friends warned him that challenging wealthy executives almost never ended well. Some co-workers distanced themselves, afraid of becoming involved. Bills continued arriving. The bank called repeatedly about overdue payments. Every obstacle seemed designed to convince Caleb that surrender would be easier. But Evelyn remained unwavering. She uncovered hidden inspection records proving that Caleb had repeatedly warned supervisors about dangerous shortcuts. She located former employees willing to testify after realizing they were not alone anymore. Financial documents revealed that the developer had deliberately blamed workers to avoid millions of dollars in repair costs. Piece by piece, the carefully constructed deception began falling apart. The courtroom was filled with reporters, employees, and anxious families on the morning of the hearing. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating every tense expression. Caleb sat quietly, thinking about Lily waiting at school and praying her father would come home with good news. Evelyn presented the evidence with remarkable precision, exposing contradictions that the opposing legal team could no longer explain. Witness after witness confirmed Caleb's honesty, work ethic, and repeated safety warnings. When the manipulated documents were finally compared with the authentic records, the courtroom fell completely silent. The judge immediately recognized the pattern of fraud. Instead of Caleb being held responsible, the investigation expanded toward the developer's executives. Months of fear collapsed into overwhelming relief. Caleb wasn't simply declared innocent. He received full payment for withheld wages, compensation for damages, and reimbursement of legal costs. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Caleb asking how he felt after defeating a corporation many believed untouchable. Caleb looked toward Evelyn before answering. He explained that courage rarely belongs to only one person. Sometimes one act of kindness inspires another until impossible situations begin to change. He reminded everyone that ordinary people should never underestimate the power of standing beside someone who feels alone. Life slowly transformed in beautiful ways. With the financial compensation, Caleb finally launched the renovation company he had dreamed about for years. He hired several workers who had previously struggled to find fair employment, promising that honesty and respect would always come before profit. His company became known not only for quality craftsmanship but also for giving second chances to people rebuilding their lives. Evelyn continued representing vulnerable clients while creating a community legal assistance program for single parents and low-income workers. The experience with Caleb reminded her that justice becomes strongest when compassion walks beside it. She also found herself spending more weekends with Caleb and Lily, discovering laughter that had been missing from her own life for years. There was no dramatic romance rushed by circumstance. Instead, trust quietly grew through shared meals, school events, community projects, and countless small moments proving that genuine relationships are built patiently. Lily adored Evelyn because she never tried to replace anyone. She simply became another caring adult who celebrated school achievements, attended soccer games, and encouraged dreams. For the first time since losing his wife, Caleb felt his home filling with hope instead of grief. The pain of the past never completely disappeared, but it no longer controlled the future. Years later, whenever Caleb walked past the same street corner where everything had begun, he often paused for a moment. Hundreds of strangers still hurried by every day, unaware that one ordinary sidewalk had become the starting point of an extraordinary story. He realized that life rarely changes through grand speeches or perfect plans. Sometimes everything changes because one person refuses to look away when another human being needs help. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Journey so together we can continue spreading stories that remind the world kindness still matters. Special request, please comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe one brave act can change someone's entire future. As the evening remained bright beneath the clear daytime sky, Caleb watched Lily laughing freely while Evelyn smiled nearby, and he finally understood that the greatest victories are not measured by courtroom decisions or financial success. They are measured by the lives we choose to protect, the strangers we choose to help, and the hope we create simply by standing between fear and someone who cannot stand alone. One ordinary morning had become the beginning of a completely different life, proving that kindness given without expecting anything in return has a remarkable way of finding its way back when we need it most.